Welcome to the Science of Hockey, the podcast where we break down the science behind ice hockey. I'm the analyst, your host, and every week we explore the data, research, and evidence that shape how we play, train, and understand the game of hockey. From biomechanics to performance psychology, we take you beyond the rink and into the research lab, giving you insights that go beyond hearsay and into what really makes the difference on the ice. Whether you're a player, a coach, a parent, or just someone passionate about the sport, we're here to bring you scientifically backed information in a language that's friendly and easy to understand. So grab your skates and let's dive into the science of hockey. Welcome to another episode of The Science of Hockey. I'm your host, the analyst, and today we're diving into the psychology of performance. This episode explores the groundbreaking study, assessment, and conceptualization of perceived competence in ice hockey. We'll unpack how perceived competence, our belief in our own abilities, shapes youth hockey players' development, motivation, and persistence in the sport. With insights from a newly developed and validated assessment tool, this research provides a fresh lens for understanding player confidence and how coaches can foster a positive developmental environment. Whether you're a coach, parent, or player, this episode will give you the tools to help young athletes believe in themselves on and off the ice. So grab your stick and let's face off against self-doubt together.
All right. Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're hitting the ice. Well, not literally. We'll explore how young hockey players see their own abilities. Mm-hmm. You know, you said this research article our way. Assessment and conceptualization of perceived competence in ice hockey. And this is from, let me see.
Yeah.
Perceptual and Motor Skills.
Yep.
2023.
Yep, that's the one.
And they actually developed a whole new questionnaire just for this, to measure like how these kids view their own skills, which I think is...
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. It's not just about how good the kid is at the sport. It's about how good they think they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And that belief can be super powerful, you know?
It makes you wonder, like, what factors feed into that belief? You know, like, is it just about being able to score goals, or is there, like, a whole nother mental game going on?
Totally. And that's what the researchers, that's what they're getting at here. They point out that, you know, like, the traditional ways that we measure competence in sports are just, they're way too broad. Like, they needed something that was specifically about hockey. Mm-hmm. So that's why they brought in all these hockey experts, coaches, and over 770 players.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're talking real-world experience here.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just people in labs.
Yeah, exactly.
But before we get into, like, all the nitty-gritty, can you remind us, like, why does this idea of perceived competence even matter in, like, youth sports? Why should we care about that?
Well, so think of it this way. If a young athlete believes in their abilities, they're more likely to stick with the sport, even when it gets tough, which, you know, leads to improvement, right?
Yeah.
You get better if you stick with it.
Yeah.
They're also less likely to experience burnout, less likely to feel anxiety about the sport. And it goes beyond the hockey rink, too. Like, it can boost their self-esteem and their well-being.
So it's about raising well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
Exactly, tough hockey players.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. But back to the study. What did these 770 players and experts, like, what did they discover? What did they come up with?
So they helped the researchers identify 6 different dimensions of perceived competence in hockey. I'll admit, like, if you had asked me off the top of my head, I probably could have only come up with, like, 3 or 4.
Okay. That's a lot more than I would have thought.
Yeah.
All right. So walk us through them. What's, like, the first layer of this hockey confidence onion? Like, what's first?
Well, the first one is offensive abilities, and it's more than just scoring goals. You know, there's
for sure.
Like a whole,
like what all contributes to
exactly.
things like accurate shooting, really great stick handling, and what's called offensive creativity.
Okay, offensive creativity.
Yeah.
That sounds like we need to get into that one.
Oh, we'll definitely come back to that one.
I'm picturing some really cool...
Yeah, some fancy moves.
Yeah.
Moves. Yeah. All right, what about number 2? What's the second dimension?
So number 2 is strength and power. And, you know, obviously hockey is a physical sport.
Right, of course.
But what's really interesting is like how strongly this resonated with the players. Like the young hockey players were really into this one.
Yeah, I can see that. Like there's a difference between just being strong.
Right, exactly.
And feeling powerful.
Yeah, owning that space on the ice.
And that must just like feed confidence in all sorts of ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just about like how much you can bench press. It's about like the mental aspect too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just about like how much you can bench press. It's about like the mental aspect too.
Definitely. Okay, what about number 3? What's the next one?
The third dimension is skating, and you're probably thinking,
come on. Of course skating is important in hockey. Yeah, you're right. It's obvious, but the researchers pointed out that that skating has become even more important in the modern game because the pace is so fast, it's so quick, and you have to be really agile.
Like the game has changed, so the skills you need to be good at changed too.
Exactly.
All right, hit me with number 4. What's next?
Number 4 is all about strategy. It's tactics.
So this is where the brains come in.
Exactly. We're talking about like on-ice intelligence, knowing when to pass, reading the play. You know, understanding your team's systems, if on offense and defense.
So being a smart player.
Yeah, exactly. Having that hockey IQ.
Not just a skilled one.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. What about number 5? What's the 5th dimension?
This one might surprise you. It's coachability.
Coachability.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a personality trait.
Right.
More than a skill.
It's both, actually. And it's really important to perceived competence. You know, it's how much the player works hard, how well they take feedback from their coaches.
Okay.
You know, even their leadership qualities on the team.
So if they're open to learning, then they're more likely to
they're getting better.
Get better. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So last but not least, give me number 6.
This one's all about the mental side of things. It's resilience.
Oh, resilience. That's got to be huge in a sport as tough as hockey.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking about being able to bounce back from losses, from you know, limited ice time, from making mistakes. You know, can the player stay focused, stay confident, even when things are tough?
That's what separates the good from the great.
Absolutely.
So we've got these 6 dimensions that really paint a complex picture.
It is.
Of what it means to feel competent, to feel good about yourself as a hockey player.
It's more than just the physical skills.
Yeah. Before we move on, was there anything else in the study that really stood out to you?
You know, I was really impressed by how thorough the researchers were.
Right.
Like, remember how they started with this, with a longer list of potential questions for the questionnaire?
Yeah.
And then they narrowed it down. I thought that was a good sign.
That's a sign of good science, I think.
Totally, yeah. They were really, really focused on getting it right.
And speaking of good science, were there any interesting connections between these different dimensions?
Yeah, there were a couple that really stood out to me.
Okay.
One was that players who saw their coaches' feedback as an opportunity to improve, not as a personal attack.
Right.
Those players tended to have better relationships with their coaches.
Makes sense. If you're not taking it personally. Yeah, then
you're more open.
Yeah, you can
learning.
Okay, so we've laid out these 6 dimensions. We've seen how they're all connected.
Yeah, they're all intertwined.
What was the researchers' main takeaway? Like, what was their conclusion?
Well, their big takeaway was that by understanding these 6 dimensions, that coaches and parents and even the players themselves can get a better sense of what makes a young athlete feel good about their hockey playing.
Which can then lead to a more positive and supportive environment for these kids.
I love it. So we've got offensive abilities, strength and power, skating, tactics, coachability, and resilience. These are the 6
pillars. Perceived competence. We'll be right back in a flash to explore more about what all this means. So don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned. So we've got this really cool new way to think about perceived competence in hockey. But the question is, like, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we use these 6 dimensions to actually help coaches and parents and the players?
That's the big question, right? Like, it's one thing to have this research, but it's got to make a difference on the ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and in the locker room and even at home.
Absolutely. Like, imagine you're a coach and you're working with a player who's just not feeling confident. Instead of just giving like a generic pep talk, you can use these 6 dimensions to like really figure out what's going on. Like maybe you got a kid who's super talented, but they fall apart under pressure.
Yeah.
Now you can say, okay, well, maybe this player needs some help with resilience.
So you're not just telling them to believe in themselves.
Right.
You're giving them tools.
You're giving them concrete strategies.
Yeah, exactly.
To get better, yeah.
And it's way more personalized. Right. And I'm also thinking about how helpful this could be for parents.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because we all want our kids to succeed, to have fun playing hockey.
Of course.
But it's hard to know, like, how to support them.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like you're fumbling in the dark.
Yeah, totally.
This research gives parents like a new lens to look through.
Yeah.
Like maybe their kid is super creative on offense, but they have trouble with coachability.
Okay.
They just shut down when the coach tries to give them feedback.
Right.
Now, knowing that the parents can adjust, how they talk to their kid.
Yeah.
How they encourage them.
And of course for the young players themselves.
Right.
Like understanding these 6 dimensions, that can be really empowering.
Totally. It's like they're looking in a mirror and saying, okay, I'm good at this, but I need to work on that.
And it takes it away from like this vague idea of talent and makes it more about what you need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And it validates their experiences.
Right.
It's like, it says to them, hey, what you're feeling, that's real.
Yeah, it's not just about being big and strong.
Yeah, there's so much more.
Yeah. I think that's a message that everyone needs to hear.
For sure.
Like it's so easy to just focus on the scores and the stats that we forget that there's all this stuff going on inside.
Totally. And if you lose sight of that, you're setting these kids up for burnout.
Right.
And frustration.
If you don't feel good about yourself, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter how talented you are.
How talented you are, yeah.
Yeah.
So like stepping back for a sec.
Yeah.
What are some of the big benefits of all this? Like of helping kids develop this sense of confidence? Is it just about...
It's so much more than just better hockey players.
Okay.
Like, if a kid feels confident and competent, they're more likely to keep playing.
Right.
And that means they're getting all the benefits of being active. The physical, the social, the emotional.
Yeah. And maybe, maybe we'll get some more NHL stars out of it too.
Hey, you never know.
But the point is, even if they never go pro, these benefits.
They go beyond the rink.
They go beyond the rink, right?
Okay.
It's like a ripple effect.
I like that.
These same skills that make a kid feel good on the ice, they're also helpful in school. Right. In relationships, in pursuing their passions, whatever those might be.
So we're not just building hockey players, we're building people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this research. It shows just how powerful youth sports can be.
Okay.
But only if we focus on the right things.
Right. Not
just winning and losing.
Yeah.
But on building that self-belief.
Yeah. Now, remember how the study found that skating and strength and power were like really important for a player's overall sense of competence? Yeah, they were. Like the foundation.
Yeah. Why do you think those two are so key? And not just in hockey, but like in life in general?
Well, I think it's because those 2 dimensions build skills that can be used in lots of different areas.
Okay.
So skating, when you really think about it, it's about balance, coordination, agility.
Right.
And those are things that you need for all kinds of activities, like playing soccer, dancing, just moving around in the world.
So it's not just about being fast.
Right.
It's about having control.
It's about like knowing where your body is in space.
Yeah.
And then strength and power.
Right.
Obviously, like being strong is important physically.
Yeah.
But it's also tied to confidence.
Yeah.
Like when you feel strong, you carry yourself differently.
It's like that feeling of strength just like radiates out.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you feel like you can do anything.
And you're more likely to take on challenges.
Right. Like, a kid who feels strong on the ice, they might also be more likely to try out for a play.
Yeah, or speak up in class,
right.
or, take a risk with some creative project.
So it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Where if you get good at these basic things, it can make you feel better about everything.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Okay, now before we wrap up this part,
Yeah.
I want to ask our listener a question.
Okay.
We've been talking about skating and strength and power in hockey.
Right?
But I'm curious, like from your own experience,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's sports or work or anything,
Yeah.
what are those basic skills, those like must-haves
Yeah.
that have helped you feel confident and competent? What are those things for you?
What are the foundations?
Yeah, what are your foundations? We'll be back in a flash to talk about that and more, so don't go anywhere. And we're back, still digging into this research on perceived competence in hockey.
Yeah.
We've got these 6 dimensions.
And they're really more complex than I think either of us imagined.
Right. Way more to it than meets the eye. And by the way, those responses we got to that question in part 2 about your foundational skills,
Oh, yeah.
those were fantastic. Really shows that this stuff goes way beyond the hockey rink.
Absolutely. Everyone's out there building their own version of like skating or strength and power, even if they don't realize it.
Right. Like one listener talked about learning to code
Oh, that's a good one.
and how it gave them that same feeling of like control and confidence they had playing soccer as a kid.
It's all about that mastery, right? That feeling that you've got a solid foundation to build on.
That's it. And it reminds me, you know, how the study highlighted those 2 dimensions,
Mm-hmm.
the skating and the strength power as being so linked to a player's overall athletic competence,
Mm-hmm.
like almost like they're prerequisites for feeling good in the rest of their game.
Exactly. So taking that idea further, what are those must-haves in other parts of life? What are the skills that once you really get them down,
Yeah.
it just unlocks a whole new level of confidence?
Is it about finding your voice? Like we had that listener who discovered public speaking was their thing, or is it more about like mastering a specific craft? You know, that feeling of I can create this, I can build this, I can solve this.
I bet it's different for everyone, right? But the cool part is the process of figuring it out.
Oh, for sure.
Like, what are those core skills for you? And then working on them.
Yeah.
That's where the real growth happens.
And maybe it's not even about like becoming perfect.
Right.
Maybe it's just about always trying to get better.
Oh, 100%. Even pros are still working on their skating and strength, always trying to level up.
Always improving, yeah.
That's a big takeaway from all of this. It's
Right.
not about reaching some finish line. It's about having that growth mindset, that belief that, hey, you can always learn, you can always evolve.
Which brings us back to coachability. The folks who are open to feedback, who see those tough moments as chances to grow.
Yeah, they're the ones who really get it.
They're the ones who thrive, yeah.
And they end up inspiring others, too.
Totally. It's like that energy of always wanting to get better, it's contagious.
It spreads.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, one last thought for our listeners. We've been talking hockey, but this stuff applies to everyone, no matter what game you're playing in life. Take a minute. Think about your own journey. What are those foundational skills, those must-haves for you? And even better, what are you working on right now? What are you building that will unlock your next level?
Keep pushing those boundaries.
Keep exploring, keep growing. Who knows, maybe you'll be on the show someday sharing your own deep dive into the foundations of success. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in to the Science of Hockey. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share it with your friends, teammates, or anyone who loves hockey as much as you do. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment to let us know what you liked, what you'd like to hear next, or any questions you have. Your feedback helps us make the show even better. Until next time, keep your skates sharp, your mind open, and keep chasing the science behind the game.